We'll get started. Right, so this one follows on nicely from last week. Okay, so those that came last week, it was Ian and Rebecca talking about like the coming into what it's like when people walk into classrooms and that experience around that. So we've timed this one on purpose. So now, by the way, throughout this whole session, fire out any questions at any point. That's what it's about. It's definitely a two-way one. Is this one today? So everyone should now have had some divisional input around learning visits. Is anyone sat there thinking, what is he on about? Right, that's okay. Right.
That's a good start.
It's a good start. So, this is it. If a learning visitor doesn't come in and do that, then it's all wrong. End of session. Yeah, so we're going to go through it briefly. We're not going to go, what I'm not going to do is do the divisional stuff that you've already done. It's not that, just so you know, we're not going to go through stage 1. Stage 2, we're not going to do all that. But for me, or for us as staff development, we want this to be as much of a positive experience as possible. Okay, so anything that might be in your mind that's worrying or bothering you, just ask that today. Right, what I will do though is I'll pick this up and do that. I'll just do a day. Right, is just give you a bit of context where it's come from. So these are now the core values of Birmingham College. So we're bringing these to life in this learning visit experience. The students are bringing this to life in the principal's address we talked about this with the students. It's going into tutorials, into lessons, and it's going to come through for everyone. Okay, so we've seen them before, so we're building that theme into the learning visit experience.
Dramatic.
We have to be.
I do a lunge, man.
Not as dramatic as they.
Side up. Yeah, I do, I do a lot.
Good technique.
Seems to work.
Yeah. And then also the learning and teaching standards. So if Festival of Learning, these got rolled out, and the learning visit process is bringing these to life. Okay, making them as purposeful and meaningful as they should be, in terms of what we're trying to do as a college. So that said, we're going to come back to anything like this. No, I won't go into. We don't need to go look at them one by one. This is what you should. This is what you should have seen in division. Okay. So the self-assessment form. Has anyone done that yet? Or not? Yeah. So that was the learning and teaching standards. So that box at the end where you look at areas of development, strengths and areas of development and a key focus. That was their learning and teaching standards. So that's what will be a conversation point, a development point during the learning visit. The next stage will be a pre-learning visit discussion with your learning visitor, who will be a licensed visitor. So what that means is everyone who's doing the learning visits will have the same training, so it's consistent across everything, and that's massively important in what we're trying to achieve. So that discussion, well, in fact, I've talked too much already. What in you sat there now, what do you think will be happening in that discussion? Lucy Martin. Any advances on that?
That's literally what I was going to say. It's a chance for us to say, I want help, I want development on X, Y, Z. That's what I want you to look at and help with.
Yeah. Anything else to add from anyone?
Would you also just like contextualise what you've done so far, where you're going, and what stage the students are at before they come, so they know what's going on?
Yeah. So your sequencing might come into it. Why are you doing what you're doing? And obviously at this point you've got the self-assessment form that you've filled in. Go back over that and maybe explain. So that form will narrow in that learning discussion as well as where the students are. This is why we are doing this. Can you have a look at this? I'm not sure if this is the right way around. What do you think? It'd be good to get your opinion on it, etc., etc. So, and for me as well, actually, I will say this: it's that time to get to know your learning visitor a bit, because it won't be someone from division. Remember, so it could be anyone in terms of, but not in your division. So it'd be a nice chance for them to get to know you, and then you get to know them in terms of what you discuss around the self-assessment form at that point.
It'd be worth mentioning, Adam, sorry.
Yeah, of course.
They will not, that learning visit won't be directed by them, it'll be directed by you. That pre-visit. So that discussion will be directed by you, not them. So they're not going to come with a load of questions and go, can you show me this? Can you show that? That won't happen. It'll be led by what you want them to do. So that's really important. That's why that self-assessment is so important, to kind of really think about what is it that you want to kind of focus on. What do you want to get out of it? What's going to be the most impactful for you and your learners? So they will not come at you with questions. They might follow up questions based on what it is that you've perhaps highlighted. So, you know, an example we previously, if you think back, we've asked for lesson plans, schemes of learning, we're not expecting you to come with a pack and go, boom, because they're going to ask you for them. But actually, if you've identified on your self-assessment planning is an area of focus, then rightly they'll say, well, let's have a look at your scheme of learning together, let's have a look at where you're at. So it's very much led, the direction is led by you, not them.
Any questions so far? Up to pre-visit.
Can I ask about your pre-visit? So if you put no notice, but then you teach across, say, 4 different programmes, are you then highlighting which particular programme you want them to come to? So even though you're still not going to have notice, but you want them to stay come into either your top-up course, so you want them to come into, are we saying that?
You can do whatever you want, whatever works for you. So we're being that, you know, whatever's going to allow you to get the best possible outcome. So if you put no notice, in theory, what the learning visitor could do is just pick a date from your timetable. But actually, in the pre-visit, if you want to say, well, let's be real, I know I've said no notice, but actually I'd like you to come to this programme because I know this is where I want to develop, then they will just look at that. So they'll do what you want to do. Likewise, you might particularly want PPD. PPD might be an area that you want to develop. So you might say, actually I want no notice, but I'd really like you to come to PPD. So work with whatever, there are no rules to some degree around that, it's what's going to work best for you.
This has to be about you, which is what the biggest shift is in the whole process.
The only time with it, and I'm sure your managers have mentioned this, the only time where there might be negotiation around when it's happening is if managers have been said that they've got to ensure that a certain amount of staff have been done by a certain period of time. They need to review that from a divisional context to understand actually from an impact on the division, where do we need to target that first, where do we need to look at supporting people. So it may be that managers come back to you and say, actually, can we just shimmy around months and things, but that's only from a logistics point of view. That's why we've kind of gone with that negotiated element to the notice.
If when you have that conversation and you say assessment is something you really want to work on, and whoever's doing your observation actually says, do you know what, someone...
Who you are? Thank you. Those words are banned. We're not using them anymore. So that's what's not happening.
If they say, well, actually, there's someone else that's really good at that.
As the learning visitor.
Yeah. If they go, well, actually, I work with someone else who's amazing at doing that, they might be better at coming in than me.
Within the learning visitors, yes, potentially.
Okay.
So it might be that.
I know it's not going to happen very often, but if it was a case of, someone picked something specific.
It would be more probably on the support angle afterwards. Okay. So like if someone's got someone that they know in that division that's awesome at assessment, it's not that they necessarily would do the learning visit, but what they might do then is say, as part of the conversation afterwards, go and peer observe them. They're really good at that. They'll help. That is where I would handle it. The idea is, however, over time we are going to kind of look at the specialisms of learning visitors. So if somebody is particularly like stretch and challenge or push, we'll know who they are, and actually then we'll team. So that's where we'll get to over time, certainly. Yeah.
Right. We'll carry on for the purpose of flow of the session. But if any other questions, just fire out. So pre-visits happen. Okay, so pre-visits happen, then the learning visit happens. So obviously at this point, depending on how that discussion goes, you might know when they're coming in, you might not. Obviously that's pre-decided. That will happen. Very developmental, or pure developmental, not very. All developmental and non-judgmental. So there will be no judgment whatsoever. It will be a coaching conversation afterwards into the feedback, so verbal coaching, mentoring style conversation. With some targets set at the end of it for you. You set the targets. It's not the learning visitor doesn't say anything. Obviously, you get to it in your discussion just like you naturally do in any mentor coaching conversation. But there are your targets to go on through the year with. and then a developmental plan, which I'm going to show you some things in a second to support that in a minute. But have we got any questions at this point about the visit itself?
When you said non-judgment,
Yes.
sorry, when you said not, is there going to be sort of like either it's been, what are the outcomes, or is it going to be like it's an okay session, or it's not meeting standards? Are we still going to get that?
No, none of that.
So,
So, yeah, go on.
the way that we've done it is just areas of strength, areas for development. So, the idea is that this isn't a quality assurance exercise, this is a developmental exercise. So, the grading, the percentages of ones, twos, outstanding, whatever variation of language we've used, that's gone. Having said that, for the sake of transparency, if a learning visitor comes in and there is something fundamental not right there and that it's impacting the learners, then there will be sort of that conversation of, look, we need to act fairly quickly on this because those learners aren't getting the best possible experience. That would absolutely have to be the right thing that we do. But ultimately, the focus is very much around the development. So the shift is away from numbers and away from words. The shift actually is focused now on actually what's the follow-up activity, what's the impact. So you'll have that conversation about that development plan. You'll set yourself some goals. Now, you know, I've been through the old standardisation, observation, every variation of it, and you kind of get it. You tick that box. You've done it. That's me done for another year. Boom, carry on. Actually, what we want is that we get that culture where actually we're developing all the time and we're thinking about our practice. So that's where it'll shift. It'll shift onto, are you doing the actions? Are we following up? Is skills for excellence focused around the areas of development? Can you see? So that's how it will feed into. So that's where the responsibility comes into it, not necessarily on the numbers.
So are we hoping to get to a stage where this isn't a cycle you do once a year? It's just something that you just keep doing.
You're doing it. It's an academic year-long process. It's because you are reflecting, you're developing, you're doing what you said, you're coming back to it, you're chatting in your teams. So we get that real culture of kind of sharing, kind of the ethos of what's happening in here every Friday morning.
And hopefully feed into skills for excellence. You know, like that vision thing, or yeah, that will feed into that.
Chloe, you look like you've got a question.
Yeah, do you know like when we do the principal's speech
Yeah.
and
The
the
goal.
yeah, and it's like the thing about, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like the teachers are above outside, and so how will that be measured now?
The goal's gone.
The goal's gone.
Yeah, so there's a new goal. The goal is actually more focused on some of you, I don't know how aware you are, I know some divisions are probably more aware just because of the cycle, but the deep dives, is that the conversation happened in division? So actually the focus is going to be on the deep dive, because that's the quality assurance exercise, essentially, that divisional deep dive, rather than focusing purely on individuals, which is how we had it before. So that goal is, it's not disappeared, it's changed, but the focus
So it's
is
more
on
like offset in it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's not good.
Just see this as CPE then.
It is,
It's
it's
included,
developmental, that's
It's
what
all
it is.
good cop.
It's all good cop.
Well, the one thing I'd add to that in terms of like linking with your teams, might be good once everyone's gone through the learning visit process. If everyone in your team got together and said what was highlighted as strengths and everything else like that, because then you could make it more of a collaboration in team instead of it being a personal development plan.
That's what we want.
Because realistically, I would openly say no notice, not bothered, who comes and watches, whatever. But someone might want to choose a specific class. You need to get into the culture of everyone seeing everyone doing it. Because otherwise, you just have the blinkers on of my lessons and whatever, and then you're never experiencing anything else.
Yeah, and that's why we want learning walks to come in just like naturally. If anyone wants to go on learning walks, by the way, come and say hello, and then we'll go on together. Things like that. Yeah, right. On that bombshell, we'll obviously make sure we get on that. What I'm going to do, I'll start next week. I was going to go through the bright spot one really quick.
Okay, we'll do a practical one next week as well.
Yeah, we'll do a practical one next week, but I'm just going to go through the bright spot one for the year next week as well. But yeah, anyway, off to lessons. Now.